begin the Gemara today on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, 5 lines down from the top of the Yamud, where it says I Hachi. So the Gemara is discussing the first words of the Sechta of the Mishnah, where it says Dinei Momenis B'Shloisha, money matters should be judged by 3 judges, and then it says Gzelis v'Chabolis B'Shloisha, that matters of if someone stole or an injury is also with 3 judges. The Gemara asked, Gzelis and Chabolis is one example of Dinei Momenis. Why is it dividing it? And the Gemara answered that the Mishnah here is saying that Dinei Momenis needs 3. And then the Mishnah says, which Dinei Momenis need 3? Only Gzelis v'Chabolis need 3, and what the Mishnah is coming to say, that it's Gzelis v'Chabolis that need 3 expert judges, Dayanim Mumchim, which is learned out from the word Elohim, that it says 3 times, that means expert judges. But other kinds of Dinei Momenis, like Hoidois and Halvois, if there's an argument about a loan, or when a person is admitting money, over there, you can have Dayanim, but the Chachamim said we don't require to have 3 expert judges. Any judges we don't want regarding the issue of a loan that you should require expert judges, because then this may delay the payment of the loan, and then a lender is not going to want to lend anybody money. That was the pshat the Gemara settled here. So now the Gemara is going to ask on this pshat in the Mishnah and offer another pshat or another 2 pshatim. Frek the Gemara, I hachi. If this is the pshat you're saying for the Mishnah, so then why do you have to say that the pshat in the Mishnah is that it's saying Dinei Momenis, and then when it says Gzelis v'Chabolos, it's explaining what the Dinei Momenis are? Say as follows, Tarti Katani. We could say that the Mishnah is really saying 2 different points. Dinei Momenis b'Shloisha Hedyatis. First it says that for money matters, you can use 3 judges, even ordinary people. 3 ordinary people can be used as 3 judges. As we just said, regarding any kinds of money issue, regarding a loan, regarding other things like that, you don't need expert judges. That's the first part of the Mishnah. And then Gzelis v'Chabolos, then when it says Gzelis v'Chabolos, over here, b'Shloisha Mumchen, here it has to be 3 expert judges, because that's, when the Pasuk says Elohim, it's talking about a shomer that's trying to steal, and the Gemara before said, Chabolos is similar to a Gzela. There's where you have to have expert judges, so we can just simply say, the pshat in the Mishnah is that it's talking about first Shloisha Hedyatis, and then Shloisha Mumchen. V'oid, another proof for this pshat, Shloisha Lamali. If you're saying that the Mishnah, when it says Dinei Momenis, and then afterwards it says Gzelis or Chabolis, it's just coming to spell out what the Dinei Momenis are, and it's all one point, and it's talking about the expert judges that you need for Gzelis or Chabolis, why does it say twice, Shloisha, and then again Shloisha? It's all one point. So therefore, so Rava says, Tarti Katani, that this is Taka the Pshat. The Mishnah is saying 2 different points. And Mishum the Rab Chanina, and it's based on what Rab Chanina said that the Gemara quoted before at the end of Daf Beis Amud Beis. What did Rab Chanina say? That really Menatayra, you always need, by any money matter, you need 3 expert judges. Elamai Chachamim have a koyach to say they uprooted this halacha regarding money matters related to a loan and things similar, because they don't want a lender to delay lending money. They don't want him to have second thoughts about lending money, that you need expert judges. So Chachamim uprooted this. So based on what Rab Chanina said, so regarding Haidois and Halvois, you don't need expert judges.
And not necessarily because they're easy cases.
No.
Very difficult.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's not what the point is. The point is shleitinil delis b'snei lovin. Correct. That's the lashon. But the point there is that it's 2 different statements in the Mishnah. Rav Acha b'rei Ravika says a similar pshat, that the Mishnah is saying 2 separate cases, but he says actually the opposite is true. Midairaisa, when it comes to cases like Hoidois and Halvois, so Minatayre Chad Nami Kosher, even one judge, one person can judge such a matter. And the reason for this is Shanema, because the pasuk says B'tzedek Tishbeit Amisecha, that you judge your friend in justice. And it just says 1, Tishbeit. It doesn't say more than 1 here. So really you need just 1. Now, so Rashi explains, Rav Acha b'rei Ravike disagrees with what the Gemara said before. Before the Gemara said a concept of Iruv Parshias Kosov Kan, which means that in the Parsha where the Torah says Elohim 3 times, it's in the Parsha of Ashay Mechinam, where it talks about a shomer that wanted to steal. But there, in that parsha, it also says the pasuk of Ki Huzeh, which is Maida b'Miktsas. So according to the Gemara until here, that means that in that same parsha, it's talking about the shomer chinam that wanted to steal, and it's also talking about a person that's borrowing money, and now is denying the loan, partially denying the loan, and Maida b'Miktsas. So because in the parsha it says both, when it says Elohim 3 times, it goes on both. It goes on Gzelos, Chabolos, and it also goes on halvois, that you would need 3 expert judges. That's Minat Torah. The Rabbanan came and instituted regarding halvois that you don't need expert judges. Rav Acha B'rei Ravika, though, doesn't hold to that. Rav Acha B'rei Ravika holds that parsha in the Torah where it says Elohim 3 times, expert judges, that's only speaking about Gzela. Gzelas v'chabolis. Halvois is not in that parsha at all. So where is it the Torah telling us regarding judging any other money matter? In this pasuk. B'tzedek tishbet amisecha, tishbet lashon yachid, that even one person can judge. So Elo, then why do you need 3? Why do you need even 3 ordinary people? Mishum yesh v'kranis. Because we don't want just people sitting in the corners of the streets and know nothing to become a judge. You're going to take a person that knows nothing and is going to judge in a case of a halva. He may not know how to judge properly and with justice. So therefore, Chachamim instituted that you have to have 3, but they don't have to be 3 expert judges, because it's not in the pasuk where it says Elohim 3 times that you need expert judges. So the Gemara asks, what did Chachamim gain by saying that you need 3? If you're going to say that it's 3, but you could use 3 ordinary people, so it could be just 3 people from a street corner that will come and paskin, and we can't rely on them either. So the Gemara says, no, once you say it's 3, if 3 together are going to agree to judge somebody, so amongst these 3, there's going to be one of them, he may not be an expert judge, but there's going to be one amongst them that knows something, that knows, at least if he doesn't know himself, he'll know what to ask, he'll know how to paskin. So therefore, Chachamim are relying on that. Frek the Gemara, now if this is the case, the Gemara asked a similar question before as well. So what are we saying here? That by a din Torah of dinei mamanis, besides gzelas and chabolos, any 3 ordinary people, they're not expert judges, they don't have the proper smicha. We learned before Rashi said expert judges means they have smicha from going back to Moshe Rabbeinu, and they got permission to paskin. But now we're saying, even if they don't have smicha and they didn't get a specific permission, any people have permission to paskin. So if that's the case, elamayata ta'u, if they made a mistake in their judgment, lo yishalmu, they should not have to pay. The halach is, the Gemara is going to say later in the Masechta, anytime judges that had permission to be judges make a mistake in their ruling, they don't have to pay. So if these ordinary people have the permission to judge, you shouldn't have to pay for their mistake either. So why do we say later that ordinary people, that paskin, do have to pay? So the Gemara answers, the reason why we make them pay if they make a mistake is because kol shkein the nefisha yesh v'kranis. If you're going to say that these ordinary judges, if they made a mistake, they don't have to pay for their mistake, so that anybody is going to feel very, very free to go ahead and judge anybody, even if he might make a mistake, because he knows it's not going to be my responsibility. So Chachamim instituted that for the ordinary judges, although we allow them to judge, but they have to take responsibility for their mistake. So that it shouldn't become a hefkevelt, that anybody can just come and be a judge and not take responsibility. Okay, so now we have over here these 2 opinions, Rava and Rav Acha B'rei Ravika. They both basically said, in the pshat of the Mishnah, they're saying the same point. That the Mishnah is saying 2 different points. That dinei mammon is b'shloisha means ordinary 3 people, and then when it says gzelis v'chabolos and it says 3, it means mumchen, expert judges. But the difference between them was that according to Rava, you always need mumchen, you always need expert judges, Minat Torah. Elamai Chachamim were mekel. Chachamim were lenient, and Chachamim said that by haidos and halvois, you can have even not mumchen. Rav Acha B'rei Ravika came from the opposite direction. He says, no, Minat Torah, even 1 judge is enough, because it says tishbait. Elamai Chachamim were stringent. Chachamim added, and they said that you should have 3, so there should be at least somebody that knows something that's going on. So the Gemara asks, in the end, they both come to the same conclusion, that you can use 3 ordinary people. So, ma ikke bein Rava Rav Acha B'rei Ravika. What's a practical difference between what Rava says and what Rav Acha B'rei Ravika says? Says the Gemara, ikke beinayo da'ama Shmuel. The difference between them will be whether they agree to what Shmuel said. Shmuel said, Shnayim shadanu, 2 that are judging in money matters, dineim din. So even though it's not right to use just 2, but if they did use 2, then the din that was paskined is accepted. This is a bezdin that has a chutzpah not to listen to what Chachamim instituted. Chachamim instituted it should be 3. Right? Minat Torah 1 is enough. So Chachamim instituted it should be 3. So they're called a bezdin that did not listen to the Chachamim. So now the Rava, Leslie the Shmuel. Rava does not hold of what Shmuel said, because Rava says that really Minat Torah you need 3. And Elamai Chachamim will make that you can use 3 ordinary people, but Minat Torah you must have 3. So this is not a bezdin chotzav. If it's just 2, it's not a bezdin at all. Rav Acha B'rei Ravika is like the Shmuel. Rav Acha B'rei Ravika will agree to what Shmuel says, because according to Rav Acha B'rei Ravika, Minat Torah you just need 1. Chachamim came and was stringent and added, you should have another 2, you should have 3. So someone that's paskening just with 2 is minatayr, it's a good judgment. Elamai, he didn't listen to what Chachamim instituted, and therefore it's called the Bezin Chotzov. Okay, so this is the conclusion when you get to the first statement in the Mishnah, the different pshatim regarding Dine Mamonis B'Shloisha, and then Gezelas Chabalas Shloisha. Going on to the next thing, the Mishnah said Nezek v'chatzi nezek regarding damages. When you have to pay full damage or a half payment, that's by a share tam that you only pay half of the damage. So also this is judged with 3. Frag the Gemara, why is the Mishnah saying this separately? Nezek hainu chabalas. Nezek is included in chabalas. Chabalas is when you injure someone. When you injure someone, there's actually 5 modes of payment. Nezek, tsar, ripu, sheves, baishes. We learned in Baba Kama. So the first payment is nezek. The injury, you have to pay for that damage, that injury itself. So why is it spelling out then nezek separately when your ox gored and injured someone, if that's already included in chabalis? And says the Gemara, mishum dekaboyle misni chatzi nezek, because it wants to speak about the case of chatzi nezek, the half payment when an ox gores the first 3 times, and it's a half a payment. So it also speaks about nezek, the full payment when the ox gores. So tani nami nezek shalim. Frag the Gemara.
Isn't there a difference between nezek on the person and nezek on his property?
We're talking here about the nezek to a person. In both cases, the nezek.
Nezek and chabalas are both.
It's included.
They're both people and
yeah.
property.
Yes, but l'chayre, even if it is a nezek on the property, l'chayre doesn't make a difference. L'chayre still, it's the same idea. Still the same concept. Whether you're paying, what's that payment of nezek when you injure a person? You have to pay the value that it went down. Right? The way you estimate that is, if he would be sold as an eved, he has one value, and now if he's sold as an eved because of the injury, he has a different value. So it's all about the money value that was decreased because of this damage. So whether it's regarding the person, whether it's regarding his property, it's the same thing. But the Gemara says the main thing you wanted to say is it's chatzi nezek. So therefore it repeats again nezek. But the Gemara, chatzi nezek nami, hainu chabalois, when it says chatzi nezek, isn't that also still part of chabalois? Because chatzi nezek is when a share tam damages and even he harms a person, and when he harms a person the first time or the first 3 times, he pays a half a damage, and that's included in the same kind of payment as chabalois, where you're paying for the injury and the damage, the fact that his value went down. So the Gemara answers different shot. The reason why it's spelling out chatzi nezek separately is because Tana Mamayna v'Ktani Knasa. The Tana of the Mishnah is telling you the payments that are a regular money payment for the actual value of the damage that happened, and then there's a payment which is only a knas, a penalty. Really, you should be potter to pay, but the Torah is putting up on you a knas to pay. That's what chatzi nezek is. Chatzi nezek is a case that you really should have been potter, but it's a penalty. So therefore, we're saying that the judgment of this knas also is 3. This is a good answer. This is a machlokes in the Gemara Baba Kama. The payment of chatzi nezek by a share tam, how do we understand this? Is this a payment which is a knas, meaning that really you should have been totally potter, because when your ox gores the first, second, third time, it's not something you expected to happen. You expect your ox to be an animal that behaves and doesn't go and gore people. So because it's not something you expected, so therefore when it goes and it gores, so you're not responsible fully for that. Really, you shouldn't be responsible at all. But there's a knas that the Torah said that you should still be careful with this, and therefore the Torah gives a penalty. So according to that opinion, we can understand that it's saying chatzi nezek, which is a knas, separately. This is still by a tam, actually. By a tam, that it's a knas. Okay. But another opinion says that the palganiska, when you pay half a chatzi nezek, it's really a regular money payment. On the contrary, really, you should be guarding your animal the first, second, third time. You always have to guard your animal because it has the nature to go and be mazik. LMI, the first few times it happens, the Torah it takes away part of the payment that you really should have paid. So it's really a regular money payment. So what are we going to say? Why is the Torah saying chatzi nezek separately? So the Gemara says, Ella, the Kabbalah Misni, the answer is a little different. The Mishnah wants to go on to say other cases. Tashlume Kefil, a ganav that pays double for stealing, and then with Tashlume Abba Chamisha, a person that steals and then slaughters the animal that he stole, or he sells it, so he has to pay 4 or 5 times as much as what he stole. The Mamain She'enoi Mishtalim Bereishu. This is money that you're not paying according to the value of the principal that you stole. The word bereisher means the principal. It's Rashi brings the pasuk b'shila ma'aseh bereisher. Bereisher means when you're paying just the principal. So this is a kind of payment that's more than what the principal was. So Tananami Chatzi Nezek, so it also says Chatzi Nezek in that category, the Mamish Eine Mishtalim Bereishu. Because this is a kind of payment that the payment is not what the principal is. It's actually less in this case. So even if it's not a knas, but still, because this is a mode of payment that's not what the principal is, so it includes it in this kind of payment. Now, Va'aydi the Kabbalah Mistin Chatzi Nezek, the Tana the Mishnah wanted to say this kind of payment of Chatzi Nezek, which is included in this category, so Tana Nami Nezek. So it begins with the full payment when an ox gores, that Nezek, even though it's really included already in Chabalis, but it wants to say Chatzi Nezek in this other category, so it already mentioned Nezek as well.
To say Chatzi Nezek and say Nezek is in the Mishnah is only talking about a behemoth. That's
Yeah.
And what about a person?
There's no Chatzi Nezek by a person that's mazik.
No. What words does the Mishnah use for a person who causes damage?
That's Chabalis. That's what Chabalis means, when you're chayvel. Chabalis, that's when a person injures. Okay, now the Gemara goes on to explain the source of what we already said before regarding Shloisha. These are all the cases until here that we said that you have to have 3 judges. So what's the source for Shloisha? Shloisha minalan. From where do we know that for all these kind of money matters, you have to have 3 judges, the Tanu Rabbanon. So we learned in the Braisa, the source is from what it says in this parsha that the Gemara already quoted before. This is the parsha of Shemer Chinam, where Shemer has a deposit and he attempted to steal it. He attempted to claim that he doesn't have it and he wants to steal it for himself. So there in that parsha it says, V'nikrav bala abayis el ha'alehim, that the owner goes to Elohim, which is a bezdin. So harei kan echad. So it says it once, that means you need 1 judge. Then in further, the pasuk says, ad ha'alehim yovid var shneim, harei kan shnayim. So it says it again, so that's a 2nd judge. And then further it says, asher yashin Elohim, harei kan shleisha. So it says 3 times the term Elohim, which refers to judges, and it says specifically the term Elohim, because it's referring to mumchen. You have to go to those that are in authority, proper mumchen. So here we see that you need 3 judges. Divrei Rabbi Yeshia. That's how Rabbi Yeshia learns the source for this. Rabbi Yonasan argues and says, Rishain, the first time it says Elohim is not a source for this. Because Tchila, that's the first time the Torah says it. The first time the Torah says it cannot be counted as one of the times for the number of judges. Why is the Torah saying it the first time? The first time it's saying it is for the halacha itself, that you need an expert judge. The word Elohim means an expert judge, so you can't count it as the number. So the aim darshan tchilas, you can't darshan the first time it says as the number. Ella, rather, what's the source that you need 3? It says Ado Lehim Yovid Var Shneim, Harei Kan Echad. The second time it uses the term Elohim, so then we know that you have to have 1 judge. Asher Yashin Elohim, when it says the second time Yashin Elohim, Harei Kan Shnayim, so now you know you need 2. So how do you know a 3rd? Because Ve'ein Bezdin Shokol. The rule always is, as we saw in the Mishnah already, you can't have a Bezdin that's even, because then if there's an argument, you won't be able to settle according to majority. So therefore, Masifan Aleim Aydechad, so you have to add a 3rd, Harei Kan Shleisha. So now you have 3. That's the source for 3. Now the Gemara is going to analyze here this machlokes of Rabbi Yeshia and Rabbi Yonasan. So name, shall we say, B'darshin Tchilos Kamifligi, that the basis of their argument here is when the Torah writes something, and it writes it once and again, as you see here, the Torah wrote Elohim 3 times, can you darshan the first time the Torah says it, or no? The first time I say the Torah is telling me just the din itself, that you have to have an expert judge. That's what Elohim means, and I can't count it as the number for what you would need here. That's what they're arguing about. The Mar Sovar Dorshan Tchilos. So Rabbi Yeshia says that I could even darshan the first time as one of the number for what you need for the 3. But Umar Sovar, and Rabbi Yonasan says, Ein Dorshan Tchilos. You can't darshan the one that's the first time, because that's coming to say that you just need an expert judge, but not for the number of how many you need. And it says the Gemara, light. That's not the understanding of their machlekes. Rather, the machlekes is as follows: the Kul Alma, Ein Dorshan Tchilos. Everybody would agree that when the Torah writes something, the first time it writes it, it's not extra to darshan for anything else. It's written the first time for the halacha itself that you need an expert judge. So Amalach Rabbi Yeshia, but Rabbi Yeshia will tell you the reason why I'm darshaning the first time as well for the number, for 3, because Imkain, Neim Ekrav, V'nikrav Balabayis ala Shoifit. Why wouldn't the pasuk use the more ordinary term that it uses regarding a judge, like it says in the pasuk Shoiftim v'Shoitrim? It should say Shoifit, that you come to the judge. Why is it using this term Elohim? And the Mefarshim explain, according to Rashi, Taisus here discusses this, but according to Rashi, that even if you're going to say that the word Elohim is coming to say that you need not just a plain judge, but you have to have an expert judge, mumchen, but the word shaifit also means an expert judge. That's the way the Gemara is arguing now, according to Rabbi Yeshia. So my El Elohim, why does it change the expression and use the term Elohim. Shema min olam minyana. So therefore, even the first time it writes it, it could be used to learn out from it the number that you have to have 3 judges. That's according to Rabbi Yeshia. But Rabbi Yonasan disagrees with this, and he says, Lishne da almenokat. This is the expression, the term Elohim that it says the first time is not considered to be something unusual. This is the lashon that we use. Kedamri inchi, as people say, man disle dina, someone that has something that has to be judged, likrav legabe dayana, let him go to judges. So over here as well, what the Gemara is really arguing according to Rabbi Yonasan is, as the Mefarshim explained this, that the term Elohim is not an unusual term. Elohim means an expert judge. And the word shayfit does not necessarily mean an expert judge. So the Torah is writing the first time Elohim to say that you have to go to an expert judge, but you can't use that as the source for the number of 3. Therefore, according to Rabbi Yonasan, we learn it out only because you have 2. It says the other 2 times, and then it can't be a bezdin shakul, can't be a bezdin that's even, so therefore we know that there's a 3rd. Okay, now the Gemara asks, according to Rabbi Yeshia, why wouldn't Rabbi Yeshia learn like Rabbi Yonasan did? Rabbi Yeshia, Lesle, Bezdin Noite. Does Rabbi Yeshia not hold to the fact that you always have to have a Bezdin that's odd so that it can lean in one direction? When there's an argument about this, why wouldn't Rabbi Yeshia want to learn, like Rabbi Yonasan said, that in the Pasuk we only have a source of 2. We don't need a source for 3, because then we'll know automatically that you need a 3rd in order that you should be able to lean in one direction. Otherwise, it's not a good Bezdin. But Vatanya, didn't we learn in a Braise that we actually learned this out from a pasuk that you have to have a bezdin that's odd, because the Braise says what's the meaning of the pasuk where there's an extra lashon? It says in the beginning of that pasuk is and then it says so it begins with the word lintais, and then it says achrab lahatais, a double lashon, which means that the bezdin is leaning in one direction when you have the majority that is in one opinion, so you follow the majority opinion. So why is it saying the double lashon? The Torah is telling you that when you point a bezdin, the number always has to be odd, that you can have a majority opinion. So why would Rabbi Yeshua not agree here? It seems like that this is a drasha from a pasuk. Does he not hold it as drasha? So the Gemara says, actually, no, he doesn't hold it as drasha. Rather, Savalak Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yeshua holds like Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah. The Amar, Rabbi Yehuda said, Shivim. When the Mishnah was discussing how large is the Sanhedrin, so there was a machlekes in the Mishnah if it's 71 or 70, and Rabbi Yehuda says that it's 70, meaning it's an even number. The Mishnah said Sanhedrin the Tanna Kama says it was 71, and Rabbi Yehuda is Shivim, that the number is 70. So you see that Rabbi Yehuda holds you don't have to have a bezdin that is an odd number, so that if there's an argument that could be a majority opinion, it could even be 70, and then it could be split down evenly 35 and 35. So same thing over here, according to Rabbi Yeshua, it could be a bezdin of 2. You have to have a source that you need a 3rd. You can't just say that you need a 3rd so that it should be you should be able to have a majority opinion. But the Gemara asks on this source, how could you compare to what Rabbi Yehuda said? When did Rabbi Yehuda say that you can have a bezdin that's even? The Sanhedrin Gedaila. That's only regarding the Sanhedrin Gedaila. Over there, the bezdin could be even 70. Because the Chsivi Kroi, because that's learned out from a pasuk. The Gemara will later learn this out from a pasuk that according to Rabbi Yehuda it's 70. But B'shar Beidina, regarding any other bezdin, whether it's a bezdin of 23, whether it's a bezdin of 3, Mishametle, does Rabbi Yehuda hold that it could be an even number? Now, if you'll argue and say Loishna, that according to Rabbi Yehuda there's no difference, just like the Sanhedrin Gedaila is 70, so too any other bezdin could be even as well, but that's not true. Because in the Mishnah itself it said, Smicha Zekenim, when it comes to doing the smicha of the bezdin on the carbon that they bring, or varifas egla, or when they come to do the egla arufa b'shloisha, that has to be done with 3, Devrei Rab Shimon. And Rabbi Yehuda, now the same Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, what does he say? B'chamisha, that has to be with 5. Ve'amrinon, and it's said about this, my time with Rabbi Yehuda, what is the source for Rabbi Yehuda, that you have to have 5 when you do the smicha by the carbon? The reason is because the pasuk says, v'samchu. So v'samchu is a plural term that they lean on the animal, that's shnaim, that's 2. And then it says ziknei, that's shnaim, that's another 2. So that's 4. So you have to have 4. And how do you know 5? Because ve'ein bezdin shakul. A bezdin cannot be an even number. So therefore, masifan aleim moedachat, so you have to have a 5th. Harekan hey, that's the source of 5. So you clearly see here that according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Sanhedrin could be even 70, but regarding any other bezdin, it has to always be an odd number. Like over here, it has to be 5. And the chiddush actually in this case, as the Mefarshim point out over here, is we're talking about a bezdin that you need 5 for a smicha on the animal. We're not even talking about a case where there's any judgment happening, where you need a majority opinion for the judgment. It's just a matter of doing the smicha. But any time there's a bezdin, there has to be an odd number, that is, even in such a case. So our question goes back again to Rabbi Yoshia. Why does Rabbi Yoshia say that you need a special pasuk that you need 3? Why wouldn't he agree to Rabbi Yonasan that the pasuk is a source for 2? And then the third is because we have the source that it shouldn't be an even number. So the Gemara says that Rabbi Yoshia adife mit Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yoshia says that just like by the Sanhedrin, it could be even. He actually goes a step further than Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yoshia was a Tana, and he held even more than Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbi Yehuda, the Sanhedrin, Gedailu the Lesley. Rabbi Yehuda himself, he held that by the Sanhedrin Agdayla, over there it could be 70, it could be even. You don't have to have a bezdin that could be leaning in a majority opinion. But Bishar Bedina Islay, by any other bezdin, it has to be an odd number. But for Rabbi Yoshia, Bishar Bedina Nami Leslay. Rabbi Yoshia says regarding any bezdin, you don't have to have an odd number. It could always be an even number, 70, it can be 2, it can be whatever, even number, it doesn't make a difference. So now the Gemara comes back to the pasuk that I brought before. The Ella, if so, hi lintois ma'avidle, the extra word of lintois that we said that from there Rabbi Yossi Galili learned out that you always have to have a bezdin that could lean in a majority opinion. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold, Rabbi Yoshia that is, doesn't hold to this. So what does he learn out from that pasuk? And says the Gemara, Moikim la bedina nefashis. He says that pasuk is actually only talking about a case where bezdin is judging a person whether he has to be put to death. There is where you have to have a bezdin that could have a majority opinion, an odd number. But regarding a money matter, that pasuk wasn't talking about this. And the Mefarshim actually say that it makes sense in the lashon of the pasuk because the pasuk there says that it's talking about a case where you're going to paskin for the negative. If we be talking about a money matter, you can't use the term l'ra'is. Why? Because what's bad for one party is positive for the other party. One person loses and one person gains when you're paskening regarding money. So why does it say l'ra'is? L'ra'is means when it's a din and nefashis, when they're judging whether a person should be put to death or not. There you have to have a bezdin that's not even. But in any other case, according to Rabbi Yoshia, it can be an even bezdin. So now the Gemara goes a step further, according to Rabbi Yoshia. So now Ela hodit not. This that it says in the Mishnah later here in the Masechta. Shnayim ma'imim zakai. In a din taita where you have 3 judges, and 2 of them say that so and so is zakai, is meritorious, and ve'echadai mechayev, and 1 says that he's chayev, or the opposite. So in such a case, so zakai. What's the psak din? We follow the majority that he's going to be zakai. Or the opposite, shnayim ma'imim chayev. If 2 say that he's chayev, and ve'echadai mezakai, and only 1 says he's zakai, so we follow the majority that he's chayev. So the question now is, Name the loik Rabbi Yoshia. Should we say that what it says here in this Mishnah does not follow what Rabbi Yoshia said? So as Rashi explains, what the Gemara is asking over here is, if Rabbi Yoshia holds that regarding the number in a bezdin, you don't need an odd bezdin because it seems like that he holds that when you paskin, we're not going to paskin based on the majority opinion. So therefore, it's not necessary to have an odd number to be able to follow majority opinion. So would that mean that when you have a majority opinion, you can't even paskin based on majority opinion? If Bezdin wants to paskin, you're going to have the agreement of all judges to paskin. So if you have 3, all 3 are going to have to agree to the psak din. If they don't all 3 agree, you can't paskin. Is that the reason why Rabbi Yoshia holds that there's no point in having an odd number? Says the Gemara, no, it doesn't go that far. This Mishnah here that says that you paskin with majority opinion, that's even according to Rabbi Yoshia. And this detail that you can paskin based on majority opinion, that you could learn out with a kal v'chaymer from din and nefashis when Bezdin is judging a matter of life or death. Ma din and nefashis, if when it comes to a bezdin paskening a matter of life or death, the chamiri, which is a very severe matter, Amar Rachman is zilbas aruba, the Torah says that you pasken with majority opinion, din a mominus, when it comes to a money matter, like all shekain. Most definitely you have to pasken based on majority opinion. So therefore, regarding this detail, he would agree that you follow majority opinion. But regarding the requirement of having a bezdin noite, as the Gemara calls it, a bezdin that's odd, that requirement is only by din and nefashis. That's a chumrah, that we require dafka such a kind of bezdin, and that we can't learn out from there, that we should apply it by din imaminus. According to Rabbi Yoshia, by all din imaminus, you don't need an odd bezdin. You could even have an even bezdin. And the fact that it has to be 3 is because of the pasuk, is because it says 3 times Elohim in the pasuk. That's how we know that it has to be 3. Now here the Gemara brings another opinion on this. Tana Rabbanan and Abraisa, we learned Dinei Mammon is b'shleisha. Money matters have to be judged by a bezin of 3. Rabbi says b'chamisha. Money matters has to be judged by a bezin of 5. What's the reason for this? Kidei sheyigmar adin b'shleisha. In order that you should be able to paskin with a majority opinion of three. So the way the Gemara understands this right now is that only if you have 5, so then you can have 3 against 2, and you'll have the majority opinion. But the Gemara asks on that, if the point there is to be able to have a majority opinion, so even if you have 3, isn't that enough to have a majority opinion, to have 2 against 1? So the Gemara explains, this is what Rebbe is saying. The actual halacha that Bezdin is paskening has to be based on 3. Meaning it's not enough that you have a majority opinion, 2 out of 1. When we learned that from the pasuk, Elohim, as the Gemara is going to explain now, Elohim is 3 times, that you need 3, it's not only 3 judges. The actual psak din has to be by 3 judges. It says the Gemara, Alma Kasava, from this I see that he holds that Tlasa, Kiksivi, when it says in the Torah 3 times Elohim that you have to have 3 judges, Begmar din iksivi. It's not just saying that you need 3 judges that are the ones that are judging this case. The actual Gemar din, the psak din, has to be based on 3. So therefore you need 5. So then the majority opinion will be 3 against 2. So you'll have the Gemar din by 3. That's what you have to have. That's what Rebbe is saying. Says the Gemara, Megadev ba Rabavo. Rabavo was Megadev on this. There's 2 pshatim in Megadev. Either Megadev means he made a motion with his hand like this to dismiss this opinion. He says, this can't be. Or others actually say that the word Megadev, as it means usually, is that he cursed this. He says that this opinion can't be true. And why not? Because if you're teaching the pasuk, that when it says the 3 times Elokim, it's not referring to the 3 judges, but it's referring to the actual ruling, the psak din, that you need 3. So if so, Tehei Sanhedrin Gedaila tzrichem me'eh v'arbaim ve'echad. When it comes to the Sanhedrin Gedaila, and we learned that from the pasuk that it's 71, but we should say that when it says in the pasuk 71, it means 71 that are giving the ruling. It has to be 71. So if so, you need 141 judges. So if you have 141 judges, so then you can pass them with the majority opinion of 71 against 70. And similar also with the Sanhedrin Ketana, Trichim Arbam v'Chamisha, the Sanhedrin Ketana, instead of it being 23, you should have to have 45. If we learn from a pasuk that you need 23, so according to Rebbe, that means that the ruling has to be with 23, so you should need 45. Again, the Mefarshim actually point out that over here regarding the Sanhedrin Ketana, Taisus over here also says that over there actually in the pasuk, it says only 20 and 20. That's really 20 and 20, not 23. The 23 was only based on that you have to have a bezin that's not shokol. But this is the number the Gemara says here. So therefore the Gemara concludes, or Rabbi concludes and says, Isfali shivim ish amar achmana. When the Torah here says, regarding 70 for the Sanhedrin. So the Torah says, gather 70 men, which is plus Moshe Rabbeinu, which is 71. So the term that the Torah uses over here is esfa, gather. What does that mean? Mishas asifa shivim. That when you gather together, it should be 70. Not the ruling has to be 70. When they come together to begin to be judges, it has to be 70, but not more than 70. And similar also regarding the bezin of 23. B'shaftu eida v'yitzilu eida. So nami mishas shvita seida, when they begin to judge, that's when it has to be 23. So Achanami over here as well regarding the source for the fact that by money matters you have to have 3. So what's the language the pasuk uses? V'nikrav balabayis elo lehim, that the owner comes to Bezdin. What does that mean? Mishas krei v'shloisha. When he comes to the Bezdin, he's coming to a Bezdin of 3, not the ruling. So what's the source of Rebbe? So this is a very strong question that Rabbi Vo asked on Rebbe's opinion that says that you need 5. So Ella the Gemara explains, Haina time of the Rebbe. This was the reason for what Rebbe says that the Bezdin has to be of 5. Because it says, Asher Yarshion Elohim. So here, the word Yarshion is a plural term. So when it says Asher Yarshion Elohim, Elohim means 2, today. Because it's not the source of the pasuk is not from the word Elohim, because Elohim is not necessarily 2, Elohim is 1, but it says Yashihun, which is a lashon rabim, that means 2. Now Nem Elohim lamata v'nem Elohim lamayla. It says the word Elohim twice here, referring to Bezdin, and therefore I compare them and I say Ma lamata shnayim, just like when it says Yarshiyun over there, it means 2, as we see. Af lamayla, so too when it says it before Shnayim, it means 2. So therefore, now that means that you have to have 4, because Elohim and Elohim, each one is 2, so that's 4. And Rashi adds that according to Rebbe, like Rabbi Yonason said before, the first time that it says Elohim is not included. So therefore we have 2 over here. And 2 times that it says Elohim, which is 4. And ve'ein bezdin shokol, and a bezdin cannot be even. Therefore, Masifan Elohim oid echad, so we add another one, and that's why that's the source for Rebbe that the bezdin has to be 5. So it's not because of the svara that the Gemara was saying before that the ruling has to be by 5 or by 3. That is that you have to have 5 in order for the ruling to be by 3. It's because in the pasuk itself you see the plural term of Yashion, so therefore we say that it has to be 4 and therefore then 5. Now the Gemara says the Rabbanan disagree with this because they say Yashion ksiv. Even though Yashi'un, it's read with a vav and it's read as a plural term, but it's written in the Torah without a vav, Yashi'un, which is a singular term, and therefore Elohim just means one judge, another Elohim is another one judge, and then the third Elohim, according to one opinion or according to another opinion, that it should not be equal, so therefore it's just 3. There's no Yashi'un, Lashon Rabim, it's a singular term.